everyone, it's John, your Indian Cine-MANIAC, with another 10ish-minute review. Okay, this one's going to be a little bit different. This is not an Indian film per se. This is actually, I think it's an English film that went in the theaters, but it has an Indian movie vibe to it, and it was recommended to me by my brother Ralph. In fact, second half of this show, we're going to do a spoiler section, because this movie, by the way, the movie's Polite Society. It came out in 2023. So there's going to be spoilers, but I won't do the spoil. I'm bringing Ralph on the second half of this show. So when we bring Ralph on, then we'll do spoilers. Up until then, I'll just do a little synopsis of the plot and what I thought about the film. So again, this film is Polite Society. Oh, I almost forgot. Thank you for reminding me. I like to do this at the beginning now, since most of you don't stick around till the end. You know what it is. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, and for the love of God, would you just smash the hell out of that like button? I would really appreciate it. I know I keep telling you this. It's a small thing that makes a big difference to this channel and the main channel. So please, please, please smash that like button. Okay, so this was a movie Ralph told me to watch. It was available on Peacock, and it's called Polite Society. Again, it was in 2023. It was in the theaters. It was written and directed by Nida Manzoor. It stars Priya Kansara, who was in Bridgerton, Ritu Arya, who was in the Umbrella Academy. I recognized her from that. Shabu Kapoor, who played the mom, and I call her a less attractive, more evil Tabu in some of her roles. Okay, you know what a big fan of Tabu I am. And I'm sorry, that was, no, excuse me, that was the mother of Priya's character, Rhea, Shabu Kapoor, who was excellent, by the way. The one who's like Tabu is Nimra Bucha or Bucha. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. She was the antagonist, and I call her an evil Tabu. So this movie had it's kind of hard to explain. It's a British class Bollywood action adventure, kung fu, science fiction, Quentin Tarantino-ish, Scott Pilgrim versus the World-ish movie. That's the best way I can describe it. It's a fun movie. I was surprised by it. Basically, the story is there's a young girl, her name's Rhea, and she wants to be a stunt woman. And in the patriarchy, everyone's telling her she can't be a stunt woman for whatever reason. And it is a feminist movie, let me just say that. But not a feminist movie that bothered me, like they were whacking you over the head with it, that men are evil. It wasn't like that. It was kind of, but it was done in a tongue-in-cheek way that didn't bother me so much. I can't wait to hear how Ralph describes that. I'll get into that a little bit more. So she's trying to be a stunt woman. She has a sister, very close with her sister, who is an artist who dropped out of art school because she's lost her mojo. She can't find it. And she's kind of, I don't want to say a deadbeat, but at the start of the film, she's kind of like that. But they have a great relationship. The two of them have a believable sister relationship. So there's not an arranged marriage, but there's a party where this evil woman is trying to get her son married, who's a neurologist or a neurosurgeon or something. And she invites all these women, to pick and choose a wife for him. And the two sisters go, and lo and behold, he is attracted to Lena, Rhea's sister. Well, Rhea's getting a really bad vibe by this whole thing. And basically what the movie is about is her trying to break up the wedding before it happens. And she's got a couple of friends from school that are helping her. Very funny, good relationship. And then it veers off into science fiction. Like the reason why he wants to marry her and the mother wants him to marry her is very science fiction-ish. And it takes, in the final act, it really veers to some strange territory, which I'll talk about in the spoiler section, not now. I will say this. If you're a fan of Indian movies, I think you'll like this, even though it's in English. It's not in Indian with subtitles. It's not in Hindi. It's English. And the young lady that's the lead actress, again, I want to say her name again. It's Priya Kansara, excellent in this movie. Just charming, funny. She does the fight scenes, and she does this move called the Fury. She goes, "I am the Fury," and she does this. She jumps up and spins around and does this kick. Well, she struggles with it, and those scenes are really hilarious. And her plans to break up the marriage are really funny. And there's title cards in between like chapters. It's just a funny movie. It's a fun movie. The action scenes are staged really well. It loses a little steam in the third act, I have to say. But there are Indian movie tropes in it that, you know, with all the Indian movies I've been watching over the last couple of years, it's like that you spot them out. In fact, and this is no spoiler, but the wedding scene at the end is very Indian movie because there's a big musical number right before it that's amazing. And it's it's a callback to all the Indian movies where they do the musical number. So it's I really recommend this movie. I think you're going to like this. It's, you know, the plot is a little, you know, all over the place, but the performances are really good, very likable. It's funny. The action scenes are staged really well and like over the top. That's why, you know, I saw Scott Pilgrim versus the World. That's what it kind of reminds me of. That kind of tone. It's a very frenetic movie. There's a lot happening all the time. Like I said, the relationships are believable. The parents, the sisters, and they have a great fight scene too. The two sisters have a fight scene that's pretty great. It's like out of the Matrix. But I'm dying to hear what Ralph thinks about the feminist aspect of this film and the way it goes after the patriarchy, because this is definitely a woman's film. If the cast in this is predominantly strong women. Which is fine because you know that didn't bother me, but it's true. And the male characters, there was really only two male characters, and one of them was a mama's boy, and the other one was the father, who I thought was funny, but didn't have much. So anyway, so I really like this movie. I would recommend it. And out of 10, I'd probably give it. I give it about 7. So I really enjoyed it. It was very different. It's not long either, which was also good. You know, it's nice when you can watch a shorter movie, which this was. So I'm going to bring Ralph on, and we're going to include spoilers. First, I'm going to ask him, you know, give me your thoughts on it because he's the one that recommended it, and I can't wait to hear his spin on it. And that's where we'll have spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie, don't watch the second half of this. We will give spoilers. If you have seen it, stick around, okay? And we're going to bring Ralph on. So, ladies and gentlemen, my viewers out there, here he is. You know him from Yippee-Ki-Yay Mother Podcast, and he's very famous for this. And 3, 2, 1.
Okay, welcome, Ralph.
I don't get it.
I used your little, your catchphrase that everybody's talking about.
You know what? I should copyright that. I'm a little offended that you're using it.
No, don't be offended. Imitation is the highest form of flattery.
That's what I
so Ralph, I already did a little. This is going to be spoilers, so let me make that clear to everybody.
This is a 2023 film.
That's right. So okay. I did a little synopsis, not a big recap like I normally do, and I gave him an overall opinion, what I thought of it, but I didn't get into a lot of detail because I wanted to save that for you and I. And I told anyone who hasn't seen the movie, don't watch the second half. If you have, we're going to get into spoilers. Okay, so I explained that to the audience. So
okay.
Before we get into heavy spoilers, just overall, you recommended this to me. It's not an Indian movie. It has Indian tropes in it.
I got roasted on one of our commenters. Roasted me.
Why?
Because when I said in the Yippee-Ki-Yay, thank you for watching Yippee-Ki-Yay, by the way, whoever this person was. I said this didn't seem like it was a straight Indian film. I said it might be. I think I said something like it might be a British film or. You know, what I meant to say is it was shot in London. I think it was shot in London, but it's a full, I think it's a Pakistani director.
Yes.
Yes. So
and they're a Pakistani family.
Right. So this is a, completely Pakistani Indian film. I got roasted because I made it sound like this is a British film. It's not
like a
film.
British produced film.
That's right. That's not what I meant. Because I don't speak well. I got I confused the issue a little bit.
Listen, is this a Pakistani produced film? I don't think so.
It is. I believe it is.
Oh, really? Well, we'll have to find that out. I'll find that out and put it in
I think Pakistani. No, you said they're a Pakistani family, right?
Yeah.
So
this
I
is
imagine the director and the writer probably same person. So
same person.
I think, and that's what that commenter said is it's a Pakistani film.
I mean, this definitely had like an English class war and Indian Bollywood tropes within 100%. The film.
That's why. But there was 90% in English, so I didn't. We didn't need the subtitles.
Right.
And it takes place in I think that's a British. Like her two friends are British, right?
Yes.
One of them. Anyway.
It's definitely It's in London. I mean, you saw the London, skyscape.
Yeah. So
cityscape.
That's what got me in trouble because I got confused about location versus production, and I didn't mean to do that. It's definitely an Indian Pakistani production, not a British production.
I'd like to find out, because I'm not sure who produced this. I'm gonna have to look that up.
I got it right here on IMDb, but
because I'm not going to say it had a Hollywood feel to it, but it definitely, I would not have guessed that it was a Pakistani produced film.
Okay. Someone named Rachel Alabaster is a co-producer. Tim Bevan is a producer. These aren't Indian or Pakistani names. Okay. Eric Fellner, producer.
Yeah.
That's where I think I got a little,
Yeah, I don't blame you. We'll figure that out, and I'll put it when I put it in the description. I'll try to get a better feel of who produced this movie. But so you recommended this film because it is outside of the films that we've been watching.
Here's how it happened. I have a lot of friends at work now who know I'm doing this show,
right?
And they're all coming up to me throwing. If they're Indian, they're throwing me Indian films. If they're Americans, they're asking me questions about the films we're watching.
Right.
This particular one came to me from somebody who said, "Hey, I caught this thing on Peacock. It's an Indian film I think you're going to like." And you and I think we were going to do a trailer review on this one. This one came up in one of the ones that I think we were going to look at before we started getting all the copyright hits and stopped doing that. So I had my eye on this one from before this guy had told me it. And then once he reminded me, I watched it and I loved it. I mean, because it hit, like you're saying, it hit every trope that we're used to seeing in all these Indian films. And it's accessible because we understood the language, and it was just a blast. I mean, it was a blast. The two leads are fantastic. I think.
Yeah, it was more. It was much more mainstream than a lot of films that we've watched.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah, but it had everything in. It had everything in little chunks, right? So you had a small dance number that happens at the wedding,
right? But it was it was very Bollywood.
Oh yes, that's what I mean. Like,
and the wedding too.
It's almost like this is almost the gateway drug for American audiences is this one. RRR, because RRR you have to sit through 3 hours.
Right.
Obviously, I think everybody should do it because it's amazing. But this is kind of the one I think that's a little more accessible because it's only an hour and a half, right?
It's more accessible for a mainstream audience who's never seen Indian films.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. No, I agree with that because I was surprised by this, how funny it was.
Yes.
And how it reminded me of Scott Pilgrim versus the World. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
I don't think I have. Maybe
the fight scenes remind me. Someone gets kicked, they get kicked through a door, no matter who does the kicking. And then that fight scene, and the lead in this, by the way, is fantastic. The girl who played
talking about the young sister,
Priya Kansara, who's in Bridgerton.
She's the lead. Okay.
Yeah, she was phenomenal. I mean, I just loved her in this.
And I loved her sister. Her sister
was in the Umbrella
charming
Academy
and fun.
Yeah. And she was really good. In their fight scene, they have a fight scene that is, they wail on each other.
And I just love that the mother looks up and says, "Make sure you clean everything up when you're done."
Who was also, she was very good.
Fantastic.
And the villainess in this film, and I want to make sure I say her name right. It was Nimra Bucha, who was in the Ms. Marvel Disney Plus series.
Okay.
But she reminded me of like, I'm
not
mean, not as
not
attractive.
As cute. Tabu,
very evil Tabu. That's what she reminded me of.
Tabu could have played that part.
Yes, and
I think she would have been fun, and it would have,
But she was cartoonishly evil, like Cruella DeVille. That's what she reminded me of. The way they dressed her.
About this, everything was cartoonish.
Yes, everything. And over the top.
including the two friends. I loved her two friends, including the woman that joined
The
them
third
after
friend
the
that
fact.
kicked
The
her
third
ass
friend.
at the beginning.
That's
Now
right.
that's when so she wants to be a stunt woman, right?
Right.
And so she's going to have a fight with this big student that she's picking on her, and she gets into this real like fight pose, and she does this thing called "I am the Fury," which
Right.
is Indian films, all the wire work they do. She does this flip pirouette and goes to kick her and misses her by like 5 feet and just smashes on the ground. And then the girl picks her up and whips her into the bookcase. I was like, what the hell's going on with this movie? It was great.
Yeah.
And but now what I wanted to ask you about, because there's so many things in this movie that I really like. Now, I thought the third act was lacking a little bit because they definitely went sci-fi, and I felt it lost a little steam.
At that point,
yeah,
you're in though.
I know, and I was, and I love the end scene. So when the whole thing's done, she's in her wedding dress, and Rhea is dressed up, and they're eating burgers,
right?
Just mon on these burgers, right? Not like politely just mawing into them. I love that scene. But I wanted to ask you, because this is a feminist movie, and 90% of the characters are female. They definitely go after the patriarchy, because the Samir, I think his name was, the guy who the son was a mama's boy, and
totally.
I mean, there was some creepy stuff going on with him and the mother,
and the sister's father was sort of
well, the two males in it, one was just a wuss, and the other really didn't do much, right?
What
it was really the mother.
I guess what I'm gonna what's your point?
My point was, because look, there are feminist movies that hit you over the head with it and try to make a real serious point about patriarchy and stuff. They did that in this movie, but in such a way that you weren't sitting there going, "Oh God, it's men bashing." That's what I'm trying to say. I really liked what they did in this movie, and even though they were trying to get this point across, right? It didn't bother me in movie. This, Ralph. In movies like this, it sometimes bothers me because it's so overt the way they do it. And in this one, I didn't feel that way. You had really strong characters who were funny, a little vulnerable. Like the scene to me that made me laugh the most was when, because my wife's an esthetician, when they were waxing her to torture her. That was the funniest scene.
Well, she lost it when she says, "Time for the bikini wax." And that's when she went, "No."
But I'm like, oh, she's going to torture her. She's going to do something really evil to her. And then they just start waxing her. No, and I was like, oh my God, that was so funny.
The movie had a great sense of humor, for sure.
Absolutely.
100%.
And it started with that the theme song at the beginning was phenomenal. Whatever music they were playing at the beginning, I just loved it. In fact, the music throughout the film was really good. The background music. I'm sorry, God, you were going to say something.
No, I just, I don't know. I get hung up on, and I got roasted again in the comments because I made the comments about Bali Bahu and the arrows, right?
Yeah,
and I'm like, I can't deal with the fact that they
but a motorcycle transforming into a flying vehicle. You believe from Doom 3.
I don't listen. I watch all the car. What is it?
Fast and Furious.
All that stuff is BS. That's stuff that can't happen. The only franchise that I kind of go, okay, is Mission Impossible, because those things are all done. He's jumping out of stuff and doing all
practical.
But when every time she spun around and slammed, normally I would just go, okay, that you can't. But this one, I just like the play. And you're right. It's like that movie Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah,
it's playful. It's playful. And I love that it was playing with the tropes that we have come to acknowledge and come to enjoy, and yet very accessible. And I just thought it was fun. And her friends, her friends in the all girls school.
Yeah,
those two girls, especially the little one with the
Alba. I think her name was Alba.
I can't remember. Let's see. Yeah, I got Alba. Alba was a riot. And the scenes where they go into the gym with the mustache,
where they're dressing up like the guys.
Yeah, it's a little over the top, but so what? I mean, she was so adorable, and you wanted her to win. Yeah. And I'm waiting for this big thing to happen. And when it finally happens at the end, and she makes a spin kick at the end with her sister,
I am the Fury.
Sister takes a picture of it, and then the woman
stunt
calls
woman,
her. The stunt woman calls her.
Yeah.
So you wanted her to win, and you definitely didn't want the other one to marry that douchebag.
Right.
I mean, he was a douche.
Well, because you really didn't know what was going on.
But that's before you even found out what was going on.
Well, right. You knew something was going on, but you didn't know exactly what it was.
Well, they were playing. It was good the way they were, because he did.
I'm not even sure. Like, from what I understand, you tell me if I'm wrong, they were going to clone her. They were going to clone the mother and impregnate the clone in her because she had a super uterus.
She had a super uterus,
right? Like a uterus that no one's ever seen.
95% or whatever. The
and she's like, damn right.
They're all getting scanned as they're walking into that party, right?
And they're testing their DNA too.
They're testing all that. So yeah, they were going to use her womb to create another mother, right?
A younger mother
I guess he was going to end up with. That's the only
I wasn't sure about that, but it did creep me out either way.
Right.
But even that was funny when they kept talking about a uterus, or they kept they kept talking about the flow. They kept talking about their flow. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God.
Oh yeah, this movie had language. I mean, it's PG-13, but there was a couple of F-bombs in there, I think maybe.
Yep. There was.
And all that period talk and all that. That's
but even the violence, to your point, it was cartoon violence. It wasn't like anybody really like at the end, she starts kicking the guy in the balls and just kept kicking him.
No, he would have
walked away and then came back, kicked him again, and he's on the ground all in the fetal position.
And whoever the woman who I'm going to say it's a woman.
Yeah, it is a woman. Yeah.
Okay. Even the car scene she did, where the two of them in the car.
Yeah.
Everything was just playful and
Thelma and Louise.
And it was short enough that you didn't feel like you're just going to have to sit through the slog, right?
Yeah, because it did, in my opinion, it lost a little steam in the third act. So if it was a typical Indian movie that, there'd be another half hour, it would have been all fill and it wouldn't have worked. I think it worked because it was short, that it was over the top. It was very playful. The violence was cartoonish. Like, heads weren't getting ripped off. There wasn't blood everywhere.
Like you said, once it got into the science fiction aspect and you see the lab, now you go, okay, this thing's now it's over the top. Because at first
it was almost
didn't know
what
I just thought it was going to be this weird incestual relationship.
Well, that's what I thought, and I kind of liked that because they kept that in the background. So you knew something was off, but it was nothing she could prove.
Right.
And that made it more difficult for her. And everything she did, all her plans she came up with phase 1, phase 2, it was just hilarious with her friends. Yeah. And then she gets pissed off at her friends because they don't want to do the next thing. I think they're going to blackmail him or something. They had all these plans worked out. Yeah. But again, I think the younger sister, especially, I like both of them and you believe their relationship. But she was she carried the film. She really did. And she was excellent in this, very likable. I know she was in Bridgerton. I don't know what else she's done. I don't even know how old she is. She looked young.
Yeah.
And she was good. She looked like, she could carry herself too. Those poses she was doing.
Well, that and I'm looking at the IMDb right now. The dresses and costuming she had to wear to perform this wire work.
Yeah.
Especially when they get into the wedding.
Yeah.
Was wild. Yeah. No,
she looked great during the dance number. I mean, she looked great, No,
that's what I mean. I loved that all those tropes kept happening and we could go,
and you recognize them.
Next.
And,
100%.
Hold on 1 second. That's the bat phone ringing.
Oh, everything all right?
I don't know. I can't tell who's calling. It's the commissioner. He probably needs me. Let me, let's see. I wrote down some other things. Oh, great. The title. What did you think of the title cards?
I forget. I mean,
it was broken into chapters. Each thing was broken into chapters.
That's what I mean. It had a very, have you ever seen a Mick G movie?
Mick G?
Mick G.
Well, I probably have, but
he did early Charlie's Angels, and he's done some other ones.
Yeah,
and he has that kind of graphic slap-on titles thing, I think too. It's very, again, I'm looking at the pictures, and it's very, very colorful. I mean, the color spectrum on this thing, and that's why, again, it plays into the cartoon and the playfulness of this. It just comes off as a, it's just what it is. It's
Bollywood.
Bollywood.
Yeah.
I mean, it's playing with a lot of genres at the same time, and then wrapping it in. And the fact that there were no subtitles, or 90% no subtitles.
I know. It's so weird to watch movies like that. In fact, I'll tell you a story when we're done with this about a movie I just watched. I also liked, at one point she says, "Come with me if you want to live." Right out of Terminator.
Right.
So, okay. So I rated this. I want to know, I rated it in the first half, 1 to 10. What would you rate this?
1 to 10. 8.
Okay. I gave it a 7.
8. Yeah.
Okay. So you would recommend
just for the pure
this?
Playfulness. I don't know if everybody would like this. Again,
here's the question. I think people that we say watch Indian movies would like this film. would our viewers who are from India, would they like this film? That's
I'm
the
gonna
question.
say that's a tough one. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
I think if you like a fun film, right? If you like Scott Pilgrim versus the World, or you like
no, I think an American audience is going to like this film.
Yeah,
right?
but I'm wondering because
I'm
of
not
the
sure
tropes.
hardcore Indian film audience. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but you know what? I think there are people out there would say, because I mean, based on how well the Doom franchise does, I mean, this has got similarities to that with the over-the-top action.
Oh, this is I'm trying to think of Scott Pilgrim's a good one. That's a good one. There's another one. Well, the one we Sean and I reviewed, Black Dynamite.
Oh yeah,
an American. Kind of thing, which is the same idea, right? It just takes a genre and puts it over the top.
Yeah,
this just happened to do that, and
blaxploitation, right? Isn't that what
that's it. This is a play on that.
Yeah.
Black Dynamite's a play on that. But this just takes that and also adds the Indian element,
right?
Which, and again, the only reason we're jiving to it is because we're watching all
right, because we recognize those,
right? And it's just so much fun. It was a blast.
Okay, so I gave it a 7. You give it an 8.
They're adorable. I mean, the two of them are
yeah,
and they're good together.
And she was so
Their
different.
Fights together were fun.
She was so different in the Umbrella Academy, the older sister.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I recommend this, and I would say to our Indian audience, give it a shot. It's an hour and 35 minutes, I think. It's a fun movie. It's very funny. You'll recognize the Bollywood tropes, which is good. So check that out. So Ralph, I got to tell you something. This is going to be the second film I post of a 10ish minute review. The one I'm going to post next is Laal Singh Chaddha, the remake of Forrest Gump.
Oh my God. You watched that?
I did watch it. So I'm going to tell you one little story. And I think I mentioned this in the actual review I did, but it was on Netflix. So I'm watching it and it's an English dub.
Okay.
And for 10 minutes, I'm going, I'm such an Amir Khan fan. I go, that's not his voice.
Is it Amir or Amir?
Amir.
You said
not Amir.
You said Amir. Okay.
I go, I know that's not his voice. So I could not watch the English dub version. Now I had to figure out through settings, excuse me, how to get the subtitles with no dub. And it wasn't the easiest thing in the world to do. Usually it is easy. Yeah. But it really bothered me that the voice coming out of his mouth wasn't him.
Well, I never watched the dub.
Well, I didn't plan on it. It didn't look to me like I could get the subtitles when I first started watching it. So I did watch it. And there was a lot I liked about it.
You liked it?
I did like it. And I think the hate, like if you watch the movie, you'll understand what a lot of the pushback was from.
Yeah, I don't think
but it's not nearly as like if you read reviews, they trash it, and it's not nearly that bad.
That's what I mean. Every time we went to
play
this one,
it's really not. I mean, you know, the problem I had with it was the first 15 to 20 minutes.
Yeah,
all I was doing was comparing it to Forrest Gump.
Well, I mean, that's the point.
I know. But once I stopped doing that, like every little detail.
How do you do that? How you?
Well, I just did because I started to get a little more invested because they definitely go different routes because of the Indian culture.
Right.
So I started to say, you know what? It's not fair to this movie that every little detail of the film I'm comparing it, and it's not right to do that. And I would say this: if Forrest Gump didn't exist, you would say, you know what? What an interesting movie. And it still was interesting. Do I think Forrest Gump was better? Yeah, I do. But I appreciated what he did. And I will also say this between you and I, it wasn't his best performance. And you know me with him. So you'll have to check out my 10ish minute
There's
review.
A few movies that when I came out of the theater, I loved them and then I grew to hate them. And Forrest Gump is one of them.
You hate Forrest Gump now?
I don't like Forrest Gump. I just find it
my only complaint about Forrest Gump, it's too long.
Oh, okay.
And this one was too long too. But
and you could say that about any.
No, but there were times when that movie. There were times when that movie dragged.
Well, but no, I'm saying is you can always say if Forrest Gump didn't exist, this would be a great film.
Well, I'm just trying to be fair to the movie that if you've never seen Forrest Gump and you just watch this movie. Like I'm sure there are Indian people out there that haven't seen Forrest Gump, maybe young people. I think they could watch this movie and and have a much different reaction to us who have seen Forrest Gump.
Even with, I assume that this version has cultural references to India.
Oh, that's where all the controversy comes from.
Why? Because he did or didn't?
Because all the historical references really are about religious extremism.
Oh, wow.
And that's where all the controversy comes from. Because he and we saw this in one of his other movies too.
I don't know where he walks around the alien.
PK,
What's that one? PK.
So I don't know if he's anti-religion, anti-religion extremism, anti-organized religion. It's from my standpoint, I'm not sure, but based on what I saw, you could understand why some people took offense to it. But what I tried to explain was from a film watching standpoint, taking that out of the equation, I really did. I mean, it was beautifully shot. The music was beautiful. Kareena Kapoor plays Robin Wright's part, and it's very different than Jenny. Like in Forrest Gump, they imply she dies of AIDS.
Yeah.
In this film, it's different. The storyline is basically the same, but the relationship is different. Well, it's just interesting. I think
isn't it like a poor copy? I mean, again, you're I don't know.
It's not a poor copy because of the cultural differences that they put into it. But it's hard. It's hard not, like, even the opening scene, he's wearing a blue checkered shirt.
Okay.
And they definitely reference certain, like ping pong. He doesn't play ping
pong.
Feather
come down too?
A feather is at the beginning and at the end, just
okay. So I don't
but I'm just telling you, I liked it. I was invested in it, and it wasn't nearly the horror show that everybody said. But anyway, Ralph, you check out my 10ish-Minute review on that. That's going to be posting probably Monday night.
Is it a review, or are you recapping the whole movie?
Well, I've cut back on that because some commenter was a real jerk to me and said, "Why don't you call it a recap show?"
You know what? I agree with that.
And in that tone,
too. Was that me?
Yeah, because you always have something to say, and it's not usually positive. But anyway,
that's not true.
So no, I did less of a recap because I think most people have seen Forrest Gump. I tried to be fair to the movie, and I don't understand. There's movies that people have hated that I haven't understood why they've hated it so much. Because again, culturally, I'm not looking at it through the same eyes, so I kind of get that.
Of course.
But just sitting down and watching it, I liked it. So,
well, you love that guy.
I do, but this was not his best. He made a really strange choice in this movie that I did not agree with. But Tom Hanks was just, Tom Hanks. That was an iconic performance.
Before I go, let me put these on. Say goodbye.
Ralph, do me a favor.
Me and Bill.
Since I always do it on the big show, would you please talk to our audience? We need a couple things.
Yeah, you know what? Why don't you subscribe, hit the like button, and smash? Smash, whatever. And the other thing I'm learning is if people stay through these videos throughout, the AI really kicks in too. They got to watch the whole thing.
I know. Well, our
lots of likes. Lots of likes.
Average view times is more than normal when you look at the analytics. But what Ralph was trying to say earlier, just in the wrong order. Subscribe, hit the notification button, and please.
I think they got it. I mean,
well, I don't know if they do, and it's important to the channel, Ralph. But I appreciate you coming on and recommending this movie. I'm really glad I watched it. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too.
So thanks for that. Hey, by the way,
sorry about saying it's a British production. I didn't. That's not the intent I was going for.
And I got to find out for sure who produced this, because I can't believe it's a Pakistani produced film. I find that hard to believe, especially with the names of the producers you gave. So. Yeah. I need to find that out. Like, maybe someone distributed it different than who produced it. I don't know. But it was
okay. You were talking about Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah,
I did that cult show with Drew, and there's a film in that reminds me of like the acrobatics that's going on in this one too. And if I can get it before we get off, I will tell you. But I can't seem to find it quick enough. I'm so sorry.
What wasn't that five? The five.
It was it's an Asian film.
It's the five heroes or something.
3 heroes or triple heroes or something like that.
I remember you talking about that.
Yeah, I love
all that wire work. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, it's really good. And let's see, I can't find it. No.
Well, this is riveting.
No. It is riveting. It is riveting. Yeah, it's 3 something. 3 something.
3 idiots do karate.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, I appreciate you coming on. Now I do have to tell you there was a technical glitch with my microphone. First half's going to sound different than the second half. Hopefully it won't sound that bad. If it sounds bad, I will redo it. That's the commitment I make to you. Wow. So anyway, thanks for being on it, Ralph. We'll see you on the big show this week. And what's the film we're doing? I don't even remember what we're doing.
I forget.
Oh, the Panther Panchali.
That's it. So you haven't seen it yet?
Oh, yeah, I have seen it.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I got
It's-
to watch it tomorrow.
You'll be thinking about it after it's done.
I spent the week watching The Island of Dr. Moreau.
Oh my God. Just
all the
two
versions.
hard. Did you see The Island of Lost Souls?
I haven't
The
seen that
original?
one. No.
You should watch that too. That's very short
Yeah, okay.
because those two other movies are awful.
It's so funny. We'll talk about it.
They're-
I don't agree
Awful.
at all. I don't agree at all.
Awful.
As a matter of fact, I think the last one is just utter genius. I'm just gonna say it. And I understand that Val Kilmer and Marlon Brando were just terrible on the set.
David
Just-
Thewlis has not watched this film.
I understand.
Yeah.
And I can understand why.
Farouza Bach
I know. I got it.
wants
But
nothing
I
to do
gotta
with it.
say,
But
there's
it's
some-
genius.
There's some scenes in there.
Yeah, okay.
that
Yeah.
just-
Like the credits,
Don't be mean. Okay.
his ice bucket on his head.
Way over 10ish minutes now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But when you're on, they know it's going to be longer.
Okay.
All right, Ralph, thanks for coming on. I appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
All right.
All
See you guys. Thanks for watching, everybody.